So we're going to get started today talking about creating content for a killer social media strategy. Social media to me encompasses anything that could be perceived as something that is online or a social conversation. So that doesn't necessarily just mean Instagram or Facebook, but that could also mean opportunities on video places like YouTube or even a blog or an e-newsletter, anything like that. So when I'm talking about social media, I'm not just talking about those online platforms that we originally think of. I'm really talking more of a social strategy, but also a digital strategy. And you can utilize some of these ideas for all of those places. So if you have questions afterwards, let me know. Let's get going though. So social media content creation. Content creation is the process of creating written content, photography, graphics, and videos for your social media accounts. It's just as simple as that. It's just content that we can kind of create and put in a space to get conversations moving and to get DMs, to put out educational content, all of these wonderful things. I like creating content, but I'll tell you right now, if I get busy, let's say like today I have 1, 2, 3, 4, I have 5 meetings. There is a lot of content that I could pull from those 5 meetings, but I'm not going to share today that content because for me, I'm already busy with those 5 meetings. So I might save that content for tomorrow or a later date. So just know that when you create content, you don't have to create it to share it right now. You can create it to share it across many, many, many weeks, months, days, whatever you'd like to do. So the first step in content creation, in my mind, is you have to know who you are to create relevant content for your people. So my question always is, what is your identity? And to know what content to share, you need to understand your brand story. That includes your history, your mission, your vision, your values, and your purpose. What makes you unique in the market? And the reason I say this is if you don't know who your identity is in your business, it's really hard to create content that makes sense for your business and for your ideal clients in the social media space. And we become very bland in the information we're sharing. If we can get very clear on what our own personal identity is in our market or in our area, I guarantee you that it will help you develop content for your audience. Okay, let me give you some ideas of what that means. So your history, a history of somebody might be, how long have you been in the business? What specific certifications you have? Did you come from a different industry? I have a lot of agents that I worked with in the field that came from either interior design, architecture, teachers, all of those things are included in your history. And they're also what kind of forms your identity. It also is what makes you different in your marketplace, and what you can bring to the table is unique. So we need to figure out what our identity is. Mission, values, maybe the reason that you joined real estate or you got into real estate was to connect the community. Maybe you love interior design. All of these different things are some things that we can utilize. And identity could actually be, your identity could actually be an entire piece of content that you continue to share over time in your business. But it also helps us figure out who we're actually targeting in the market. Okay, so that's the first question I go through is, what is your identity as a real estate agent? Second is we talk about who your audience is. Who is your audience? To know what content to share, you need to understand who we want to get in front of, right? Where do they exist online? What age group or demographic are they a part of? Are they associated with a specific location, a hobby, or a group? The reason this is important is, and I'll go through more demographic information a little bit later, but we need to understand who our audience is so we understand, one, where are they online? My mother is 67 years old, and she's part of the baby boomer generation. She loathes TikTok. She hates using Instagram. She thinks Facebook is the greatest platform ever created. She gets mad at me when I don't post there. So I know that if I'm going to work with people of my mother's age group, that I likely need to exist in a heavier capacity on Facebook if I want to get in touch with her. Okay. So maybe if you're looking at it and you say the majority of your business comes from people who are empty nesters, maybe downsizers, looking for a 2-story to a ranch or whatever it is, that's a very specific demographic and they exist in a specific place online. Okay. The other thing you could do is look at it from a location perspective. If you're looking at, a certain area of town is your audience, then you can try to exist in multiple places if that demographic kind of spans different age groups, right? But it might look like you existing in kind of very location specific places online, like Facebook has groups, they have pages for neighborhoods and communities. But at least then we can kind of look at that as like a specific audience. And then another idea is there was an agent that I work with in Arizona, and she had 2 little kids who wanted to do water skiing. And I've given this example before in a lot of my stuff, but it's so specific. And in Arizona, it's a desert, so there's not a lot of places to water ski. So there was a city called Lake Havasu. She would take her kiddos out to that area. And for them, they ended up being part of this water skiing community and developed all these wonderful relationships. She started selling real estate out there, and she has become the go-to real estate person for the water ski community in Lake Havasu. So that's another demographic. Then we need to take that demographic and figure out what are their ages, where do they exist online, how can I get in front of them, how do they like to be communicated with? And that's how we can decide where the most effective places to be are on social media. And that is the next question. Where is your audience? When you know who your audience is, you can find them online easily, or maybe you already have a following somewhere. My biggest thing is if I know that my ideal client is, the millennial generation, let's say, which is 27 to 42. It's a wide range right now. But that millennial generation is likely inside of the middle of their careers. They might, they likely have some sort of family established, or they're planning a family. It might be first-time home buyers or move-up buyers. So that is where that's my audience. In that age group, millennial age group, tends to be specifically heavier users of Instagram than any other platform. So it might look for me that I'm going to share the majority of my content on Instagram because I know that they're my ideal client. Any questions so far? We're good? Perfect. Okay, so let's break down those demographics into platforms. So when you're looking at it and you can let's say you figure out who your audience is, then we can look at where they're at online. So Facebook is a very, very large platform. Every single person practically from 35 and up is on Facebook. You also have younger users on Facebook. The majority of people actually have a Facebook. They just use it differently. So Facebook users tend to be 35 plus. And then your younger group of Facebook users tend to only utilize groups as a place to either network, find jobs, nanny, or communicate with more of a specific group versus posting in the feed. But I like Facebook because everybody's there, but you also have to take into account that it's very busy and it's very loud because everybody is there, okay? Instagram is a great platform. The heavier users are going to be in that 25 to 44 age range, that millennial age range. You're going to see that more women use Instagram than men, but it's not a huge difference. Women, I think, was 53 or 54% compared to man being 47 or 46% as far as users. TikTok users, 62% of TikTok users are under 30. So if you're looking for a place to get in front of first-time homebuyers, maybe young investors, TikTok would be a great opportunity to put some content there. YouTube is also very similar to Instagram as far as their age demographic and user base. You're also going to see a lot of different ages on YouTube. And the same thing with YouTube, but a little bit flipped. More men use YouTube than women, but it's still that it's almost a 50-50 split. LinkedIn. So if I were to start a real estate business right now and I wanted to target my generation, which is the millennial generation, I would likely make sure that I was on LinkedIn and I was on Instagram. So your highest usership of LinkedIn is between the ages of 30 and 49, which is mostly your millennial generation, as well as a little bit of Gen X. They're in the peak career moments of their life. But that's also mostly employed people, mostly salaried people, people that could qualify for a loan. And then pairing that with like that other platform that isn't just business based, like an Instagram would be a really great opportunity to be in those spaces. And then if you really want to go with more of like a photo based opportunity, we're looking at Pinterest. Pinterest is heavily used by women 25 to 44 as well. So if you know that your demographic is like female millennials, then maybe you exist on Instagram and Pinterest, or Instagram, Pinterest, and LinkedIn. One of the things I did want to mention is if you already have a large presence somewhere online, stay there. But if you also realize that your demographic is likely somewhere else, heavier somewhere else, it might be worthy to be in both of those places, okay? Okay, so let's dive into actual content. So content buckets. You might hear this being called content pillars or pillar content. I like buckets because in my mind, a lot of times, like I said before, I'll create content and I just need to put it somewhere, house it until I'm ready to post it or ready to edit it. So for me, buckets make sense because I can just throw information into this bucket until I'm ready to use, it. So buckets are just categories of information that you use to organize your content. Each bucket is different, but they should all relate back to that brand message and story that we talked about in the beginning when it comes to your identity. So all of these should make sense when it comes to the identity that you've created in that first initial slide that I shared. Brands, like larger brands, often use 4 to 6 content buckets, usually kind of in the general scheme of education, inspiration, personal, promotional, conversational entertainment, all of these wonderful things. For somebody getting new in content creation, I usually suggest starting with 2 or 3 content buckets. Don't overwhelm yourself. Get good at 2 or 3 things, share those, rotate them, and then add on once you're comfortable there. One of the best things that I've seen done, and I don't know how Claire does it, but you either can have like a printed calendar or an online calendar of when you're going to post inside of each one of these content buckets, and people kind of color code them. So on Monday, I might post something from this bucket. On Tuesday, I might post something from this bucket, but it's going to color code them and give you a reminder to diversify your content. So I wanted to give you an example of what some content buckets look like. So on the next 2 slides, I'm going to give you a bunch of different examples. So example would be seller tips. Okay, so there could be so many seller tips. They're like, it's just limitless and endless, the amount of information that you could put into seller tips. How to stage a home properly, how to declutter, things that sellers missed when it comes to cleaning before showings, what to do with your dogs during showings, what should you fix before you even list your home, or how do we choose, you know, a sale price, all these different things that could go directly into that seller tips bucket. Okay. Local bucket. I love this bucket. I think it's super important that most agents have a local bucket where you're sharing local and pertinent information to your area, to the places that you want to work. This is really a great space for you to become kind of a thought leader in your area and in your community when it comes to just straight knowledge, because what's going to happen is people are going to call you and say, you know, John Smith knows this area better than anybody else. They know where to go to eat. They know what schools are. They know what the best parks are, where coffee shops. They also know every single community so well because they document it online all the time. So the local bucket is one of my favorites, and it's continuously changing. One of the things that I had my agents do in Arizona was to go to the city websites because the cities and the counties are required to disclose public information and public developments. So if these agents went to the city websites, they could find out about new developments coming before the average consumer and the average homeowner would even know that certain things were coming to market, which was really fun. The customer journey. Okay, so I love this one too, because I think it's really important for especially first-time home buyers, first-time home sellers, maybe the elderly, people who might not understand what actually takes place during a transaction. So sharing them what the journey looks like, maybe giving them stories of what's happened to past clients, or funny things that have, taken place during a home inspection, or what to expect during a home inspection, or some crazy things that you've seen. Those are really fun ways to kind of share information on the customer journey without having to just get into like straight facts of what that actual process looks like. And then personal. I know some people feel really uncomfortable sharing personal stuff on social media, but I promise you, this is such a way to go deeper with the people that are already following you. They know, love, and trust you. Now they just want to know that you're a real person. And I always say there's difference between personal and private. You can still be personal while also being private. So there's certain things that you don't always have to share, but there's other things that make you a person and make people know, love, and trust you. We got to have a personality. People don't want to think that 100% of our life is real estate. And this is just a great way to connect. So these are 4 examples of content buckets. And I have another slide of 4 more examples. So the last one, we had seller tips. This one, buyer tips. Same thing, but on the buyer side. There's so much for a buyer to learn, especially if they're a new home buyer. If they've only bought once in their life, but it was 10 years ago, we have a lot of education to do because a lot has changed. Okay. Another one is BTS. Does anybody know what BTS means? Claire, do you know what BTS means? Meg, do you know what BTS means? All right.
I was trying to unmute myself.
Claire, do you know what BTS means?
I don't. Maybe I knew in college.
You know what it means. It means behind the scenes.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
So, it's such a great one. I love this one because I could probably, if I asked the question and see everybody on the call right now, and you guys would tell me, justifying your commission is something that you probably do consistently all day long. And a lot of times it's just because what you do as real estate agents isn't necessarily visible to the people that you're working with all the time. So doing some behind the scenes content and showing them, hey, I'm negotiating XYZ properties. I'm going and recording, videos of these things for my out of town people. I'm, meeting somebody for a home inspection, or I'm going to a closing, or whatever it is. Like, those are behind the scenes things that a lot of people don't get to see about our day to day. But there are also things that help us so we don't have to justify why we're getting paid, or we don't have to justify our commission. I love BTS. I think it's really important. If you are planning on doing behind the scenes, creating video obviously is really great. This is also a great place to put behind the scenes are great content pieces for stories. So Facebook stories or Instagram stories, because it's in the moment, it's day to day, and it's super fun to share. I love opening up my stories and just seeing people in the moment be like, you're never going to believe what happened. And then they get this rundown of story of what happened because it just wasn't expected, which is fun. Another content bucket could be customer testimonials. This could be via text. This could be, something that you repurpose from a Google business. This could be a video testimonial that you record at closing. I love customer testimonials because it's content that you can reshare over again. So you create it once, you can reshare that same customer testimonial 6 months later. It's not anything that you have to really recreate. It's what I would call and consider it evergreen content. So evergreen content is stuff that you create, that's all yours, but the content doesn't really change over time. So it's re-shareable after a certain period, okay? And then design. I think design content from a real estate perspective is really important, especially if you're in a market where you are seeing a lot of investors come in, fix and flips, new build opportunities. People want to know, why did you do this design versus this, or what's trending in the market, or what, paint tips that, what's out there. Is it board and batten anymore, or are we still seeing white kitchens? Like all of these different things that people want to just know, hey, what's expected in a home? What's trending, so that way if I am a seller, I know some of the things that I might be able to do on a surface level that could make my home more marketable. But these are just really great examples of content bucket ideas. You might have other ideas outside of these, and that's totally fine. I just wanted to give you some tangible takeaways of what these might look like. Claire can definitely help sit down with you and maybe go through, your identity and your background and what you enjoy doing and hobbies, and personal things in your life and why you got into real estate, and create very custom content buckets for your specific business.
Yeah, I think this is one of the best, I think most helpful things to figuring out what you're going to actually post. And that's what I'll do, months ahead of time on my calendar. I'll write, I don't use color code, but that's a great idea. I just write the category instead of what it actually is. I'll write testimonial, closed deal, industry update. And then once I get closer to the time that it would be posting, then I erase the topic and I put in exactly what the post is going to be. So however your strategy works for you, I think is great, but definitely I love the categorizing of everything. It's so helpful.
Yeah, and I've seen people have like a huge calendar on their wall, like a dry erase calendar. I've seen people have it in like a journal on their whatever, their date book or whatever it is. And I've seen people do online calendars too, content scheduling calendars where it'll sort it for you. But just to keep some sort of like track and consistency on those buckets, one, it'll diversify your content enough that people won't get bored. The hard part about like being online is if we're sharing the same thing, or at least some things over and over and over again, we end up losing followers. I had this conversation with an agent, it was like 2 months ago, and I went onto his page and he was consistently posting content, but every single post was a property photo. And then it was like information about the property photo, information about the property. So there was no videos involved. There was no pictures of his face. And it literally just looked like it was just properties, and that's all they did. And I told him, I was like, you're not getting any traction because people are bored. Like they can see this exact same information on Zillow. And they don't have to search for it or go to your page or anything like that. And they can get more information from Zillow too. So I think when we're sharing stuff, yes, there's time and place for listing opportunities and sharing your listings and all of that stuff. But I also think when you diversify your content, you become more interesting and you keep attention better. And when we keep attention, I always say attention right now is the highest form of currency. When we can keep attention and we can go deeper with people, we're already building trust with people that we don't even know are watching our content. So when they are ready to buy or sell, you're the one that they call. All right, next up. So so inside of those content buckets, so let's say we have, buyer tips. Let's just go with buyer tips. Then I say, what is that content that we're sharing? Like, how do we actually share that content? Well, you can share it in a lot of different ways. You can share it via video. So you being like recording yourself, or maybe you have a produced video that you're sharing. You can share via static posts, meaning just a picture and then a caption. You can share via infographics. I love infographics. The consumer loves infographics. They're super pretty. Usually you can save them. It just simplifies content in a way that is more digestible than having to read something. You can share it via educational opportunities. That could be via video, or maybe it's a newsletter, or maybe it is a link to an educational blog, or like let's say we're talking about wire fraud, maybe it's a link to the FBI website on how terrifying wire fraud could be for you. Claire, who's laughing? You could share funny content. Maybe it's memes or something to have to do with like life in general. You can share carousels. So carousels are the posts that you kind of scroll through. So it's static images and you can kind of scroll through them. You can share local news. One of the things that I used to do, and this was super, super effective, was in Arizona, there was a media source called AZ Big Media. And they were notorious for putting out like news pieces that were like top 10 best hikes in Arizona, or top 5 hotels for a staycation, or something like that. So I would take that actual article, and then I would repurpose the information, make it look really pretty, and put it on like a stories or a reels, or make my own video for it. And then I would give credit to AZ Big Media for the information, but then I'm recreated in a way that I'm building trust and I'm building reputation based on me sharing the information instead of just sharing the news source. Okay. Hot tip, coming in hot. I should like have it come off the screen and on fire. I'm going to change that. So this is huge, and I'm sure you guys are so sick of hearing about video. But 54% of all consumers want to see more video from brands they love. This was actually from 2021. The actual number as of today, because I looked it up this morning, is 91%. 91% of all consumers want to see more video from brands that they love. And you know what? Because, you know what? I'll just change it later. But 91%, think about that. People who, and you're a brand, you are a brand. You, one person, are a brand. Your business, what you believe in, what you stand for, you are a brand. So all of the consumers buying, selling a house, looking for investment opportunities, all these different things, they want more information from you via video. They're asking for it, they're begging for it, because it's easy to consume. And I think I've said this in a previous video before, but our brains retain 95% of the information that we see and hear in a video, versus 10% of what we read in text, whether it's email or text message on our phone. So as far as like effectiveness of getting our point across, getting us to be memorable, video is the way to do this. It's just how our brains work. We remember these things better. So if you haven't implemented a video strategy, I would take all of these content creation tips, sit with Claire, and figure out a way to make your content video heavy moving forward through the rest of 2023. It'll help you stand out. You'll be better than the rest. You'll be better than your competition. And it can be a combination of, day-to-day type stuff. It can be a combination of produced video if you really want some really formal type stuff. And you can work with Claire, and she can work with you on all of those different aspects of things to get into a place where you're executing consistently on video. Now, this is my biggest question. I always talk with agents, they're like, well, how do I go about finding these content ideas? Because I just can't create them, okay? So I'm gonna go from left to right, but I also feel like the whole right side is probably your best bet for finding content. So where I find content, a lot of times, I start in either apps or opportunities online. There are, Feedly is an app that I use all the time. It's one of my favorite apps, and I will actually, I'm gonna bring it up here and show you real quick what that looks like. So Feedly is this green app right here. If I click it, it's going to open up the app, and I can tell this app, I want to know every single day. I want to know about design. I want to know about finance. I want to know about real estate. I want to know about marketing. I want to know about digital advertising, and I want to know about my state and my local city. And every single day, it's going to pull in the top articles based on those topics that I want to know about. So you don't have to spend hours on the interwebs finding all of this content. It's pulled directly into this app. And then you could take these pieces of content and repurpose them into videos, into static posts, into opportunities online for you, or maybe even repurposing them into like a newsletter that you share out. But this is one of the simplest ways. That's why I'm showing you on my phone, to pull in new information that you can then share out to your people. Other places that are similar to Feedly, but just aren't as easy to use, Quora, Reddit. These are more platforms where people ask questions and get answers. Who knows where they come from? Random people online. BuzzSumo is really, it's kind of like a hub of information as well. I still use Google Alerts too. So Google Alerts, if you have a Google account, you can go onto Google and say, set up alerts, and you can be alerted for when certain topics are in the media. And that also does the same thing that Feedly does. It'll pull in those top articles from online and opportunities online, so you can take that information and repurpose it. The only reason that I like Feedly better than Google Alerts is because Google Alerts, it's just one alert. So if you set up 10 alerts, you're going to get 10 emails that day. So it tends to be a little overwhelming. One of the things I do have people set a Google alert for is your name or your business name. I like that because if for some reason you're published somewhere, or somebody's commenting something about you, or whatever it is, you're alerted when somebody's using your name, and hopefully it's not fraud or whatever, but at least then you know that people are talking about you. Content ideas are Facebook pages, like neighborhood pages. People ask for information all the time. I'm on my neighborhood page here, and it's daily that people are asking questions on remodels and, you know, extra tile, or anybody have this floor plan, or do you have a good garage person, or whatever it is. You can be kind of the purveyor of information in those places. But sometimes you can take that content and also repurpose some of those answers to your own social media pages. It looked like somebody had a question. Hold on. Claire, did you see that come in? Was it Rick? Hold on. Rick, are you there? Rick?
I am here. That was an inadvertent click. I apologize.
That's okay. Well, it's good to see you anyways.
I was just thinking though, so I have an alert like that coming in on my name, and I know everything that the one-armed drummer from Def Leppard is doing.
Oh, isn't that the worst? Isn't that the worst when somebody has your specific name, right?
You're supposed to share, I guess.
Exactly. Look what I've been up to. You guys didn't know that I actually am a drummer, right? Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Well, that's good. And making sure not only just your name, but your business name are on there too, just to kind of keep track of what's going on. But I like Google Alerts. Thanks for being here, Rick. I appreciate it. I'm gonna kick you off now. He's so cute. Nextdoor is an app. It's an online desktop platform as well. People go on there and ask the same things that they ask on Facebook pages. There can be a little bit of drama on Nextdoor, so just be careful.
Just got it immediately.
Right? I've seen more fights on Nextdoor than anything. It's just funny.
Yeah. But if you are looking for content for what is like bothering people, honestly, I didn't think of that, but that would be a great spot.
Huge spot. Yeah. Pinterest is a great way to kind of see trends, what people are wanting to see when it comes to houses or decor, or new interior design ideas. Nice for that if you want to get some inspiration and content ideas from there. YouTube has a lot of trending things that are happening there. One of the places that I really like to leverage is something called Answer the Public. So if you go to Answer the Public, which is just a website, and you type in, maybe, let's say, I'm in Columbus, Ohio. So I type in real estate Columbus, Ohio. It will pull up all of the different things that people search in regards to real estate in Columbus, Ohio. Top things that people search in regards to that. And then I can create videos around those top searches. So that way I'm trending. I'm the one that comes up when they do search those things. Same thing on Facebook and Twitter with trending topics. Flip, another platform that you could use outside of, like, it's very similar to Feedly. I just think Feedly is a little bit easier to use. Other content ideas could be, your butt is giving me some issues. Other content ideas could be sharing past content. If your content is still relevant, but you shared it 6 months ago, consider resharing it or reshare it in a different way. You can take stories that you've posted before and repurpose them into Reels, since Reels is a lot bigger now. And Claire can show you how to do that. So there's other ways to repurpose content that you've already shared. You guys also have a ton of opportunity when it comes to online websites. So the NAR is consistently releasing new information for buyers and real estate agents. Keeping Current Matters is such a good place for just kind of current trends and what's happening day to day. Your local news sources. Like I said earlier, your city planner, your economic development resources. You could go on your city and county websites and see what's coming. So those are kind of outside of your own home base. My favorite place for content ideas and inspiration is everything on that right side. So your emails, your text messages, comments from past posts, stuff that your competition is doing but not doing it very well, information from your brokerage or past content, reshare, evergreen content. Again, I urge you to look back in your emails and your text messages from the past, year and a half, and pull out questions that your clients have asked you. You can literally open up your emails and write down all these different questions. And I guarantee you, if it's a pretty generic question, like, okay, what's the next step after XYZ? That's something that you can write down as a piece of content, and then you can create content from that. Is it a video? Is it an explainer? Is it an infographic? Maybe it's like the process of buying home or whatever it is. Your email and your text messages are the #1 place that you're going to find content that makes the most sense for the people that you're working with, because they're already asking those questions. Make sense? Claire, have them pull out their phones, text messages, pull out a piece of paper and write it down. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Because I'm not always talking to clients as the market. So I'm always asking people, hey, what are, people saying? What's going on? Like, you give me the content. Totally. So if you're the one who's actually interacting, then perfect. You can open your email and look for all.
Yeah. Well, what I say is all social media is the content, is the conversations we're already having at scale. Okay. So if I'm already sitting and talking to a buyer about the process or the journey of what they're going to do to get to the end result of buying a home, I can have that same conversation online. It's just going to get in front of a lot more people. And it's one of the few free ways that you can do that. Still free for now, who knows? But it's just conversations we're already having at scale. So think back to the conversations that you've had with your buyers and your sellers before, listing or before buying or inside of the transaction, and then put those in a place that we can scale and get in front of more people. Okay. Here's the best practices for creating content. You want to create the highest quality content that you can afford. And I say that because everybody's budget is different. Okay. If you already have a smartphone and that's all you have every ability to create as good of content as somebody who has a digital camera, a ring light, and a video editor, because we have the greatest smartphones ever. Now we have awesome cameras. Like, this thing has three lenses on it. Like, that's insane. I can do 4K video here, and most people are recording digital cameras in 4K. 4K is also something that you have an option to do. So 1080p, 4K, a resolution. If you go on your iPhone, if you have an iPhone or even a Google phone, 4K is an option. I just want you to be very careful. If you're recording things in 4K, it will take up pretty much all the space on your phone after one video. So you're going to need a third party place to put that, right? But I always suggest to agents are like, how do I create content, or how do I create the highest quality content? Create the highest quality content that you can afford. If that means you have a phone and a ring light and that's it, you can download free video editor apps, or you can edit inside of the social media platforms. You can also use Canva, the free account. If you need help with editing, you could outsource to somewhere like a Fiverr, where you might pay $20 a video to get it edited. If you want to do more professional type videos, or produce type videos, not professional, but produce type videos, you could go with a videographer. You could go with a social media manager, or even a virtual assistant. So always just keep in mind, I'm creating the highest quality content that I can afford right now. Okay. And then secondary to that, best practices: plan, schedule, and batch your content to stay on track. If you are relying on staying on track by just creating content in the moment, it doesn't necessarily usually translate very well to consistency. So I always try to help people put a plan in place by choosing your buckets, setting a schedule so you know what buckets are coming, and then doing one day or a couple of days of months where you're recording multiple pieces of content, so you're not having to do it every single day in the moment. You're actually scheduling it out, and you have time to sit there and plan and create. And a couple of those places that you can do that with is Hootsuite, Content Cal, CoSchedule. You can do it in Canva. Social Media Examiner is a great way to plan and schedule that too. And you can access different content calendars there, or even like a Trello, or if you work with like Asana or Monday.com, those are options as well. And then consistency matters. So choosing a schedule and a platform you can stay consistent with. Everybody always asks, what's the best time to post? How often should I be posting, every single week? And you're going to see all these social media marketers. You're going to see all these people online that have their own opinions on this. I also have an opinion on this. My opinion is choose a schedule and choose a platform that you can stay consistent with. If that means you're only posting one post per week, fine. If it means you're posting multiple times per day, that's okay too. The thing is the algorithm and your consumers and the people that follow you get used to your schedule of posting, okay? It helps you to stay consistent. So if that means you post Tuesday mornings and Thursday afternoons and that's it, go for it. Just get to a place where you're consistent with it. And then I promise you, once you stay consistent with it and you're doing it over and over again, it gets easier. And then you can commit to a more robust schedule and adding more to your plate little by little. And then one thing I want you to do is, once you get to a place where you are consistently posting content, I want you to analyze all of your content that you put out in digital and print form. The objective for this is to reveal strengths and weaknesses in your strategy and future content development creation. But having the data is key. And most of the time, the only place where we're going to have data is inside of business or professional accounts. It allows us to track who's watching us, how often they're watching us, what time of day they're watching us. All of these things are important to look back on and say, okay, it seems like this type of content is working really well. Maybe we move heavier to that. And then maybe we post consistently on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, because that's when I'm getting the most interaction. This also could give you a window into a world of, I don't want to post this type of content anymore because people just don't want to see it. They're scrolling right past it. So I always suggest a content audit at least every 6 months. If you need help with an audit, Claire and I work together on certain things. She can definitely look at some of your analytics on your platforms and see what's working, what's not working based on comments, likes, interactions, all of those things. And then we can make some suggestions moving forward. And last but not least, all of my bonus ideas. I love my bonus ideas, and most, like 90% of my bonus ideas have stuff to do with AI right now, because I think it is one of the coolest things ever. But I also think it is such a great way to reduce the time, cost, and just stress of content creation, social media creation. listing descriptions, all of these different things. So I'm sure you've heard about it in the marketplace, but AI, so artificial intelligence platforms like ChatGPT, Jasper AI, Canva, Magic Write, can all be places where you can leverage their opportunities to help you write blogs, write captions, write guides, write video scripts and newsletters. I actually did a live video of writing a listing description in an earlier class today. I showed them what they would do and how it would pull out a listing description. And it's literally free to do. But I know agents who spend upwards of an hour or two on writing listing descriptions, where you could do it in 2 minutes on a platform like this and then just adjust where needed. So it just saves time. And I love it for video scripts. And I also love it for writing captions. So if you haven't checked out ChatGPT, please do so. Jasper AI is a paid platform, and Canva Magic Write is only available to pro users right now. So you'll definitely need paid platforms for the Jasper AI and the Canva, but ChatGPT is free right now. You could try it. Sometimes in the free version, it's not available because there's too many people on the platform at one time. So I always tell people just refresh until it gives you the option to put in your prompt. It's just a great way to reduce the time that you're spending trying to do all of this stuff. And you can just really focus on the actual execution of these social media ideas. So that's it from me. I know it was short, quick, fun, full of information, just the basics of creating content. And now we need to get specific to your own business. So please do me a favor, reach out to Claire specifically. She can help you building out what your buckets look like, your content scheduling, building a schedule for you, keeping you accountable, and then really kind of diving into the ideas in each one of those buckets. But we appreciate your time today. Does anybody have questions that I can answer before I jump off? Ooh, hold on. Oh, thanks, Susan. Appreciate it.
I loved it. It was really, really informative. Really.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes we get overly complicated with our content and trying to understand what it is and the basics of it. And it is really confusing because people talk about it all the time. But I'm like, if we can get examples and we can just narrow down who we are and who we want to work with, it's so much easier to create content around that. Sometimes we just need a little bit of guidance. So. Right. You're welcome, Rick. It was nice to meet you. So cute. Awesome. Do you ladies have anything else for me or any questions?
I don't. That was super helpful, and I hope that everyone else was helpful. I think that this is all super self-explanatory, easy to implement. It's nothing that's too abstract, which is really what you wanted. Because I love how you said just start out by posting once a week, because I think that that's something that I hear from people that's really overwhelming. Because you hear like, oh, you have to be posting X amount of times a day, and that's too hard to start out with. So I think that just giving everybody a baseline is something you don't hear a lot. I think a lot of times people
right. And then I also think like in real estate industry, we tend to focus on what other realtors are doing. And we like either try to repurpose what they're doing and that's fine. Like when I said, check out your competition, maybe they're doing something that is not so great and you can repurpose it into a different way. But I always ask the question, does it make sense for who I am as a brand, as a company, and what I believe in? And it goes back to that, what's your identity at the beginning? So, and I do that not just for content, but I do that for agents when we'll sit together, and I had a lot of agents reach out and say, hey, is this CRM for me? Or is this lead generation platform for me? Or do you think this marketing opportunity is for me? And my question was always, does it make sense for your brand? Does it make sense for who you are? And if it doesn't, discard. If it does, let's figure out how to implement it in a way that is the most effective.
Absolutely.
Right.
Awesome.